Next up, we spoke with author Lee Gutkind. Gutkind founded the literary journal Creative Nonfiction and is considered a godfather of the genre. Here's what he had to say about his Pittsburgh connections.
So I started teaching at the University of Pittsburgh in the early 1970s, and I introduced something that was kind of new in the whole literary world, new journalism. And as time passed, new journalism gradually faded away and became what we know of today as creative nonfiction. I stayed at the University of Pittsburgh for a long time, almost 30 years. And during that time, I worked really hard to promote the genre to make people aware of how wonderful and important the genre of creative nonfiction was. And during that time also, I established a literary journal called Creative Nonfiction, which was the first and continues to be the largest literary journal that publishes narrative or creative nonfiction exclusively. And now I teach at Arizona State University, not in a writing program. I was rescued from a writing program, a creative writing program, and I started teaching and stayed there for 15 years in a science policy think tank. And the whole idea, creative nonfiction means true stories. Creative nonfiction means that we writers, whether we're writing memoir or what people call literary journalism or new journalism, what we're doing is, in the end, informing our readers, teaching our readers about things that are really important in this world or to us. And we try to be as informational and accurate as possible. Just because there's this word called creative nonfiction doesn't mean we're writing poetry and short stories. We're writing solid information, but we try to take that information and turn it into a true story so that readers, whether they're interested in the information or not, will read. There were so many complicated and difficult things in this world for us to understand with the introduction of the internet and the iPhone and technology generally. So going to the science policy think tank, I brought the idea of creative nonfiction, true stories, into the technology and science and policy areas, also medicine and economics, and did a lot of work with scientists and with policy people from all across the world to teach them how to share their worlds in ways that you and I, just regular, real people would understand. But I'm a writer, and this is what I do. And while I'm doing all the stuff I just told you I was doing, I write and I publish books. I've published or edited over 30 books. And the last book that I did was a memoir. It's called By Last 8,000 Days, an American male in his 70s. I know you're looking at me now and saying, how could he be in his 70s, that youthful man I'm talking to? But the fact of the matter is, I am nearing the end of my 70s. And I wrote about how one adjusts to being an aging, but constantly enthusiastic and energetic person as they move into a different way and part of life. When you get to be 70 years old, there are very few secrets that you have left. There's really nothing to hide. There's no way to go but down, or staying the same. So if there's anything I've told about my life, I've written about my life in this memoir, and the adjustment that I have had to make in the way I looked upon my life and dealt with other people and faced challenges, but I did it in as honest a way as I possibly could, so that people nearing 70 and of course way beyond 70 could understand the transition that people go through. And 8,000 days, by the way, I once read an article in an academic journal written by a guy from MIT, who explained that if you live until you're 65 years old, you have a 50% chance of living 8,000 more days, which would bring you to the age of 85, 86, 87. So, so I got a few more years left, if that guy is right. But that's how that's how I came upon the title. But let me say that being a serious writer is not just something we do once in a while. Being a serious writer is a total commitment. It's a way of life. It's it's something that takes a long time to develop. And so it's like going to medical school, you know? I mean, you really can't adequately deal with patients until you've studied and practiced for 10 or 12 or 15 years. And as a writer, you really can't expect to achieve a great deal or to be able to deal with your work with confidence and publication for that long time. And even though I have been involved in an MFA program, again at Pitt for a long time, and I've traveled the world and talked to students, budding writers who are studying creative nonfiction or studying creative writing. There's no program, no series of courses, no professors. They can help you and guide you, but being a writer begins and ends with what you have inside you and how much you are willing to devote and commit to the quality of your work and the impact you make. And I'll just say one more thing about that, and that is using that word impact. The thing that is so wonderful about being a writer, especially a nonfiction true story writer, is that you can really, and I'm hoping that my book has done this, my last 8,000 days, I am hoping that that my book has made an impact and changed some of the lives of those people who have read my book. That is really the great satisfaction and joy about being a nonfiction writer. The fact that you can indeed influence people, change their lives, make an impact, get them to think more seriously about their lives, and maybe even take action to live their lives better. That especially is the case in memoir, and memoir is what we're talking about, or at least I've written a lot of books. That's only my second memoir, but that's what we're talking about today.
That was author Lee Gutkind, author of more than 30 published works. His presentation at the Festival of Books begins at 11 a.m. We'll be right back.